back to the channel, everybody. This is Henry. This is a special edition 10-year anniversary video. It's going to be photos and videos of stuff we've done for the last 10 years, performing just over 257 cleanup dives, removing 57,000 pounds of garbage or so. The first photos were from Deep Cove, our very first cleanup dive, and this photo is actually us pulling out the biggest thing I ever removed, which is a boat out of Cates Park. Not really sure how I ended up at this dive site. This site is called Caulfield Cove, and somehow I was told or figured out there was a lot of garbage, and we put out a ton of bottles and stuff. In the very beginning, we actually had a nice trailer to haul trash with, but we ended up getting rid of that. This is over at Alice Lake, just kind of on a hunch. We decided to go dive there. This is right in the main beach swim area. We found some really interesting stuff. We found this giant cable thing, whatever that's called. And look at those paddles. That was the first time we found so many paddles, lots of old garbage. This mound of trash is actually from a lake. Is it called Cabin Lake up on Cypress Mountain? Comment below if you know the name of the lake. But the man, I wish I kept that one old ski. Would have been cool. This is our cleanup dive over at Jericho Beach with the assistance of the search and rescue guys. That boat came in handy big time because we had to use that boat's motor, the power from the motor, to attach the rope, and then trying to power lift crab traps out of the ocean because we were trapped by the sand. And lots of tires, and you can see on the right hand side that broken, mangled crab traps because as we pulled up, they just kind of tore them apart. That was a really fun cleanup dive. Big crew out there. I'd like to go back there again, actually. This is the very first time we cleaned up at Cultus Lake. This is the Chilliwack search and rescue team with their little ski doos there. It was kind of like a practice session for them to use that to tow people, and rainy old day, but we had fun pulling out just an absolute butt ton of trash from Entrance Bay at Cultus Lake. Rob Wilson, the park ranger, has since become a good friend of mine, and him and I facilitated this particular dive. Look at all that trash we pulled out. It was a lot of fun. A lot of volunteers that day. I think it's always fun to involve families and kids in these cleanup events. Kind of gives them a sense of what's happening to our environment. So I'm skipping over a lot of footage, pictures and videos, and just trying to kind of present some of the more interesting stuff. So this video here is over at Brome Lake. This is the very first time I dived there, so definitely a decent amount of old school trash. Here's some camping chairs and old bottles and stuff like that. Also the first time I used the GoPro to film my footage. This is the definitely one of my more memorable trips. We took a helicopter ride. So BC Parks gave us a helicopter ride up to Joffrey Lakes, and to remove some lost park equipment that was swept into the lake by an avalanche. This is Third Lake. I like to kid that I must be the only person who's been to Joffrey Lake twice, and I've never hiked the trail ever. That was a super fun dive. We did manage to find what we're looking for, or find part of what we're looking for. We're looking for a bunch of metal food cache poles that were swept in, as well as a large truck box, a metal container containing park equipment. Took us pretty much the entire dive to find this thing. Otto was the one that found this, and we were able to lift it out with assistance of a couple of lift bags, and then eventually with help from shore we were able to get it out. That was quite heavy. That was such a memorable dive for me. So somewhere along the line I figured out that I can actually go camping and diving at the same time, and it's mostly because some of these dive sites are so remote from me that it takes me a couple of hours to actually drive there. So I figured, well, might as well camp for 2 or 3 days, perform multiple dives, and so camping and diving was born. These pictures are from Weaver Lake, located out in the Harrison Lake area. This is our first time diving there, and obviously, seeing as that's the first time this particular lake has ever been cleaned, just an absolute ton of trash, lots of cans, and subsequently we've removed more and more each time that we were there. This photos here is from Saskma Lake in Port Moody. our first time there, and didn't really know what we're getting into, and subsequently we've actually removed so much more trash from that lake, but we still got a decent amount that day. I believe this might be Lost Lake in Whistler. Kind of looks like that water entry at Lost Lake there. In the early days, this lake was known for sunglasses. We recover so many pairs of sunglasses from there. Since then, it's become less and less. I don't know if it's just because we kind of got it all, or if people are getting smarter and not losing their sunglasses in the water. But lots of beer cans, and it was definitely... and again, in the very beginning, we were finding a ton of beer cans, but not so much these days. This is what my camping setup with Otto and Karen on the left, my camper's on the right. I no longer have that truck camper. It's kind of moved on to a different setup. At some point, I will introduce that. We're camping at Cat Lake this time. And there's my dog Daisy. She's helping, counting the cans. Man, so glad to have a truck camper with heat in it when we're camping in the winter. This is camp and dive over at Cultus Lake again, with courtesy of the Parks Board, or the Cultus Lake Park Board, I guess it's called. Gave us access to their campground, so we were able to camp there for free. Got a lot of tires. There's Clayton's truck, actually, his little SUV in the back. This is one of the first times Clayton, or I think this is the second time Clayton came out. Aquatic Monkey has come out to help us with our dive. I've since become really great friends with him, and we do a lot of dives together. Man, that's a lot of bottles. Man, camping at these places, especially when we get special permission to camp there and there's nobody else around, it's so magical. So this is underwater footage from Albert Dick Lake. I thought I'd speed up the footage and just kind of you have a look at just how many beer cans I run into in a very short span. Yeah, there's definitely a ton of beer cans coming out of there. I'll just let you watch this part here. Alrighty, that's enough of that. Decent amount of beer cans from this little rock quarry. This used to be, or sorry, this former rock quarry. They hit an underground spring and it flooded, so they kind of give up on the rock quarry thing. I think I might have done a back-to-back dive at Albert Dick Lake. This is the second dive. Lots of tires, and there's a pop-up tent that we recover from depth as well too. This is footage or a picture from Sasma Lake, but by the floating docks. I believe this might have been one of our first time there. Keep in mind that I purposely skipped certain photos and videos just in order to kind of keep this particular video a little more viewable in length. I could probably have like hours worth of footage. And here we are back at Albert Dick Lake. That's Otto in the water. We were on a mission to remove a lot of tires that we knew that was there. There's Clayton Aquatic Monkey, free diving. His team is actually helping me out. So just kind of showcase, this is what we do here. We just pick up beer cans and beer bottles by hand, one at a time. Every time we touch something, we stir up a ton of silt, which is why we generally try to stay away from each other. All the divers dive solo, and everyone is solo compliant, or self-reliant diver. Basically, I want to show a little bit of footage of auto diving here, and then I'm going to move on to do some tire removal with Clayton. After lots of work from a bunch of free divers, as well as the dedicated team from Ocean Quest, we got a lot of tires out. You can pause to count that if you like. It was a lot. It was a lot of work, actually, but super fun and very rewarding. Back to camping at Cultus Lake on the far end of the campground this time. Removed a ton of trash, lots of beer bottles and tires and so on. Camped with Otto and Karen, and Gordon from Hike and RV came out to camp for one night, and Clayton Aquatic Monkey came out and dived with us, I think on both days actually. Next trip was out to this is Sayers Lake, and pretty close to Weaver Lake actually. This was our first time diving there. Removed a decent amount of trash, but yeah, it was such a fun time. There's Maggie, and Maggie at this point here has become very accustomed to camping, and there she is, just absolutely passed out, exhausted from hanging out. This is over at Chehalis Lake, Chehalis North, and what a gorgeous little spot. Just absolutely had a great time. So hot that day, but did end up getting a little bit of trash out. Not nearly as much as I kind of expected, but still had a great time camping. This is a cool little dive here. This is the end of International Pier or Burrard Dry Dock, right next to Lonsdale Quay. You can sort of see the quay to my left there. And yeah, this is kind of an unusual dive spot because most people wouldn't be able to get here, but I did get special permission. As soon as I got in the dive here, or started the dive, you can see I picked up actually a hard drive, and I think I picked up 2 hard drives or a computer or something like that. Man, look at the amount of industrial garbage there. Some of those giant shackles that must have weighed just an absolute butt ton. I'm not there for that because they're much heavier than I can actually lift. Pretty much right away found a shopping cart, which is cool to get that out of the water, but also very disappointing because now I got to swim the entire dive with this thing. It was such a pain in the butt. But more importantly, just kind of have a look at the background there. Just an absolute ton of trash. All industrial, very difficult for somebody like me to get out just because I'm a diver just working on my own. There's Otto on my right, and there is a fire extinguisher, and he's got a crab trap there, I think. Yeah, that's right, there's the fire extinguisher. There's a crab trying to fight us. And there's the end result. There's the crab trap that Otto found, the shopping cart I found, and a bunch of other trash. And here's the fire extinguisher, pretty old. We didn't really check that if it was filled or not. I don't think we could have anyway. I think it was pretty seized up. Back to Cultus Lake for a quick day dive. Grabbed a bunch of trash out of the entrance bay area, and then it was over to Chilliwack Lake with cooperation of BC Parks. You can see all the park staff as well as the park ranger boat in the back there. And then it was dive back to International Pier, Burrard Dry Dock. Look at those big shackles there. And then we're back over to Chehalis North. This time I brought my buddy Chris with me. So the two of us were camping. And man, look at that gorgeous view. Sitting around the fire. There's Chris right there. And there's Daisy in the foreground. Maggie is to the far left there. Kind of showing off my camping setup here. That's the old pop-up camper, four-wheel pop-up camper that I used to have, which I no longer own. And there's Daisy passed in the sun. She has they have so much fun when they're all camping with me. And of course Maggie is looking for a little shade, trying to stay cool in the heat there. They just went for a swim whenever they felt like it. So there's the trash, tackle box, and a few beer cans, some clay shots, or clay pigeons, I think they're called. Yeah, that was a fun dive. The next dive that we performed was over at Goldworthy Pier over at Waterfront Park, North Vancouver, and this is the place where we eventually became known as the shopping cart graveyard. We had pulled up without any mechanical help. We ended up pulling up 3 shopping carts and I think 1 or 2 crab traps. We did go back eventually and got a lot more trash out with the help of the city because we needed the mechanical advantage of a winch. And here we are back at Joffrey Lakes for a second attempt to find those missing food cache poles. And there we are waving from the water, and you can kind of see us there. What a gorgeous dive spot. Super unique. And we're back to Sassmai Lake. This is White Pine Beach. We did actually eventually learn that we probably don't want to come here in the summer when it's really busy because there's just too many people around. But yeah, we kind of figured out this lake a little bit, so now we know where the trash is. You can see there's a lot more beer cans than the very first photo that I showed you from Sassmai Lake. So yeah, there's a lot of trash. And over to Cat Lake and to do a little trash removal, of course. And Cat Lake in Squamish has since known to me as the most polluted lake that I clean. There's lots of beer cans always, lots of vapes, camping equipment sometimes, lots of beer cans. Yeah, fun times. So back to Waterfront Park over at Goldworthy Pier, this time with the help of City of North Vancouver. You can see the winch line there in the water, and with the help of the power winch, we're able to get so much more stuff out of the water. This is yeah, you can see here what we do is we just attach the shopping carts. Look at the pile of shopping carts down here, just absolutely ridiculous. So I think we got a little bit too aggressive with that attempt there, so we have to untangle some crab traps and so on, but there's the end result. I think it was like 13 shopping carts and 16 crab traps is what we ended up with. Lots of fun that day. As a matter of fact, at the time of doing this voiceover, earlier today, just a few hours ago, I was actually at this pier doing more dives, taking out more shopping carts and crab traps, so you're going to have to stick around. Subscribe to this channel and you'll see the video of that dive. Super fun. I'm very happy looking, Henry. So this area here is the C-SPAN dock. Normally the Dennis Washington, who owns C-SPAN and the Burrard Dry Dock and all that stuff, that's where his yacht, the Atessa, is moored all the time. So we've got special permission to dive here, and there's Gord from Hike and RV. So we decided to go out and take out a bunch of trash. We didn't actually know there was this much trash. We just assumed there was, and sure enough, that hunch paid off. Look at the amount of chairs that we're going to pull off in a second here. And this definitely required, there's Chris, my buddy, this definitely required help from the surface. So what we had to do is wait our turn, because we were bringing up so much trash. We had to wait our turn. There's this is me. There's Fabriola. So she couldn't get this tire out of the sand, so she kind of waved me over. So I had to go over and just kind of absolutely reef this thing. And then there you can see the line that she's got there, and the surface is going to pull that up for her so that she doesn't have to actually lift it. It works out really well, actually, that little system. But man, and back to chairs I go. These are all the chairs from, there's like an old nightclub from the Key that was from the 80s, I guess, and I guess drunk people just kept on throwing chairs over the side, so that's where they all ended up. Here I am kind of waiting. I'm actually looking for help, and there's nobody around because everybody was so busy trying to haul other stuff. So finally got somebody's attention, and I had 2 chairs, and I really couldn't even let go of the dock because I was actually just holding on to it for dear life. So anyway, untangled one of them, got the chair out of the water, and then I was able to hand the other one up. So, and here's the aftermath. There's Otto and some tires, and wait for it, there's shopping carts, crab traps, chairs. Those are the nightclub chairs that we're talking about. There's more chairs. Wait for it, there is even more chairs. This is that's a lot. I actually can't remember how many chairs. It was a lot. And then there's one more picture of even more chairs somewhere else. There's me helping to haul stuff up. I think there's one more photo. There it is. There's the other pile of chairs. You can actually count how many chairs there is. There's got to be like 30 something chairs. Anyway, back to, what site are we at now? Oh yeah, back to, I think this is Sassmai Lake. Yes, it is. That's Sassmai Lake. More beer cans, White Pine Beach. I think this is probably around 600 cans or so. So over at Blackwater Lake near Birkenhead Lake, Provincial Park and all that, we're looking for a lost snowmobile. This year in 2023 was the 5th year that we spent looking for that particular snowmobile. It's somewhere in the lake. We just can't find it. But we are finding lots of other things, though, umbrellas and fins and fishing rods. And I think this lake, I find the most amount of fishing rods, actually, for some strange reason. I have no idea why. There's a logging boot. I don't know the story behind that. And here we are over at Boland Island, organized by one of our volunteer divers, Amber Spiktowski. She's a local on Bowen Island, and just absolute butt ton of trash pulled out of the marina because, you know, it's an active marina. It never gets cleaned, so we did get permission to dive this, so we were able to pull out a lot of trash. Everything from bottles and cans and chairs, and pretty much anything that would actually either fall off a boat or get blown by the wind to land in the water, or maybe thrown over maliciously. Lots of like just tools and random ropes and carpets, and there's these things on the right. Those are the vinyl windows off of boats, and they're actually quite expensive, actually. So, but obviously wind caught them and just ended up in the water. So pots and pans and chairs and baskets, garbage can, tires as well too. So that was a decent amount of stuff. This particular dive here was the first one that was sponsored by Pacific Pilsner. There's Clayton. He brought his dive team, his free divers out to help. So this is Lake Lucille, I think. This is the one where legend says there was a lot of trash, so we went out and dived it, and I don't really know why there wasn't absolute like beer cans everywhere. There just wasn't. However, somebody had built like this ramp to jump into the water, so I ended up finding, I think, 6 skateboards and 4 bikes, because people were jumping skateboards and bikes off of this ramp. And obviously at some point they do sink. So I found, I'm pretty sure it was 6 skateboards. Yeah, there's a stack of skateboards. I was actually I wasn't sure about how to get it out of the water, but they did fit in the onion bags. So there's the lake, there's the skateboards, there's the bikes, there's beer cans, a little bit of beer cans anyway. Yeah, that was a fun day dive. What do you think?
I think it's a good look. Oh, it's sagging down a little bit there. You gotta make sure it's.
So that was Francis Lake Francis, whatever it's called. We're actually looking for a fishing skiff, like a 14-foot fishing skiff. The far end is the lake. We just didn't know where it was, but we've been looking for a few years. This is over at Silver Lake in Skagit Valley. It's the very first time I ever found an old logging tool. When I swam past this thing, I thought it was just a stick, like a branch sticking out. And then when I touched it, it just felt different. And sure enough, this is the very first old logging tool that I ever found. This thing is called a PV. Man, look at the silt. So I had to kind of keep moving, like I would stir up the silt and move a little bit just to see what I'm looking for. Of course, once I see the first one, now I know how to look for them, and there is the second one. So I found 2 on this dive. Other dives that I've done over at Sayers Lake and Weaver Lake, I found double-headed Puget Sound axe, one in each lake, and then so I found a decent amount, I guess 4 logging tools now. They're really antique stuff. Super cool. These things date back about 110 years, because that's when logging was done in this particular area. What a cool find. I still have these. Are hanging on my dive shed. So back to Cultus Lake, back to Cat Lake, another one from Cat Lake. What dock is this? I can't even tell anymore. There's so many dives that I do. And this is probably my favorite, most memorable finds. This mom and dad lost their phone in this lake, and this is a 94 feet find, and found the phone after 2 tries, and this phone had 12,000 baby photos on it that wasn't backed up. So you're buying beers?
Oh my God! Get a picture. Are you serious, Henry? We're buying beers. Holy shit!
Of course, while I'm there, I definitely got to get some trash out. So there's some beer cans. It was a little smoky from the forest fires, but there's my camping setup, and camping with my buddy Chris. Great time. And it's back to our annual cleanup dive over at Deep Cove. And for random bits of trash. So definitely ropes and beer cans and beer bottles and paddles and just lots of random bits of stuff. There's a plate. I think we found some cell phones on this dive too. I'm pretty sure we did. We always find cell phones. There it is. There's the cell phones. We did manage to get some of those phones, and there's a drone. Did manage to get some of these back to the owner, but not always. The phones sometimes are so destroyed. This is back at Cultus Lake now. Lots of beer cans, sunglasses as usual. Lots of solo cups and so on. Some of this stuff is like really, really old. Back to Cat Lake for a quick day dive. Get some more beer cans out. Didn't find anything super special. And we're over at our inaugural Stanley Park dive at the Vancouver Rowing Club. I think we got like over 800 bottles on this particular dive. It was definitely a lot. Required the permission of the rowing club. They were super happy to host us, so thank you to those guys, and they gave us beer and burger for lunch afterwards. It was awesome. This is over at Cultus Lake, this is over at Sassamat Lake again, but this is over to the leased area where there's a day camp, summer camp thing on the far side. This is the funniest thing I ever found, I think. There's like a bathtub. I have no idea how this bathtub actually even got in the water, but we managed to get the bathtub out of the water, plus the anchors and so on. So this is back to Cat Lake again. Sometimes I find these full beers. I call them swamp beers, and not the drone, of course. And I do swamp beer tasting over on TikTok. There's a phone, as always. I almost didn't see that phone, actually. That was a lucky find. Back to Sassamat Lake, that's right, over at White Pine Beach. A little bit of trash. Sometimes I find like fake jewelry. I wish that was solid gold. That'd be so cool. And over at Ambleside in West Vancouver, over at False Creek, pulling out just random things. There's radios from the rowboat center, longboard. I think this is a dive where we found, yeah, that's right, there's a generator. Like, oh my god, who throws generators into the water? Shopping cart, bikes. And this is the one where, I found the trampoline. Clayton found the boat motor, the 55-inch screen TV. Who throws a big screen TV into the water? Oh my god, who does that? Shopping carts, paddles, and clothing. Clayton and I having a great time. I like diving to Clayton, man. It's awesome. I have no idea where this dive is. This is Lake Francis again. I think Clayton found a nice fly rod. That was a good dive. Little speaker there. Beautiful sunny day, but cold. Back to Stanley Park for more volunteer diving. More diving with volunteers from the Vancouver Rowing Club. Just an absolute ton of old trash. We're probably going to go there again in the spring when the weather permits. Decent amount of bottles again. Thank you so much for all the volunteers. Look at those club members. They're so active with their volunteering. That's really, really great. And we're so appreciative of those guys. I think this is Grace Lake, or just outside of Weaver Lake. My first time diving there. Decent amount of trash. There's actually a lot more trash. I've only dived this lake once, so I'm definitely going to go back. And this is the larger group diving over at Sassamat Lake, White Pine Beach. Clayton brought his free dive team, brought his boat, so you can just use the boat as a trash trash collection tool. Lots of beer bottles, lots of phones, lots of radios, handheld radios again. And I think we're back over at Cat Lake. That's right, this is back over at Cat Lake again. As usual, lots of sunglasses and some full beers. Both of those beers were good. Nice. Free Coronas, yes. And this is over at Wood Lake. This is sort of in the Harrison area. I always find bikinis, like every dive. Like I find the random bikini or underwear. What is happening? Anyway, Wood Lake, lots of trash there. Definitely go back there eventually again. This is my first line bike since subsequently I've actually found more line bikes since then, but this is line bike over at Deep Cove. Lots of cell phones again. This is always great for phones over at the Deep Cove Government Dock, because people are taking selfies or they step on and off the boat because it's a free government dock, and the phones just fall out of their pocket, I guess. So there's Clayton. And we meet up yet again back at Cultus, doing more trash removals. This is over at Entrance Bay. Beer cans is the usual culprit. And beer bottles, of course. And this is me over at Cat Lake, pulling out just random beer cans and sunglasses and lighters and camping chairs. I just had a quick look at my stats. 257 cleanup dives and just around 60,000 pounds of trash removed in the last 10 years. Super fun time, and a little bit more to go before I kind of decide to call it quits. But thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. Thank you for Pacific Pilsner for sponsoring this dive, as well as all the volunteers who helped out to get me to this point.